please be seated. Good morning. I'm Jennifer Johnson, Dean of Lewis and Clark Law School, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2019 Lewis and Clark Law School Commencement. I'd like to begin today's festivities by introducing those joining me on stage. Seated behind me and to my far right is Associate Dean of Faculty, Professor John Perry, who will be hooding the graduates. Next to Dean Perry is Associate Dean of Student Affairs, Libby Davis, who will assist with the hooding. To my immediate right is Vim Vivell, the President of Lewis and Clark Law School. To my immediate left is our speaker, the Honorable Michael McShane, who I'll more fully introduce in a few moments. Seated next to our speaker is Mark Trados, a member of our Board of Trustees and President Chair of our Law School Board of Visitors. To Mark's left is Ajit Phadke, President of the Lewis and Clark Law School Alumni Board. To Ajit's left is Professor Steve Johansson, our mace bearer. And seated next to Steve is our honorary graduate, Paul Casey, who you will meet in a moment. At back of the stage, from the Registrar's Office, are Brooke Mill and Breck Young, who will be assisting with the conferring of degrees. Also at the back of the stage is Matt Bergman, a member of our Board of Trustees and the Law School Board of Visitors. The flags were carried by James Molyneux Elliott from the class of 2020, Anna Laird from the class of 2021, and Miriam Wainwright from the class of 2021. Our sign language interpreters are Melanie DeLeon and Ashley Sasante. One more introduction, our fabulous faculty. The law faculty is seated just in front of the graduates, and I would ask them to stand and face the graduates so you can be recognized. Also, a special introduction of Professor Sandy Patrick, who will be joining us on stage to read your names as you come forward to get your diplomas. And I'm confident she will carry on the tradition of pronouncing each graduate's name perfectly. So, no pressure, Professor. And now I would like to recognize two of our faculty who are retiring this year, Professor Doug Balloof and Professor Jan Pierce. Both have served the law school for 19 years. Both have served the law school for 19 years. Doug in our criminal law and victims' rights program, and Jan in our low-income tax clinic. They've been valued colleagues, and we will miss them. Will Doug and Jan please stand? Now I want to take a moment to reflect on the history of the land our community occupies. Prior to the newcomers arriving in this area, the indigenous land of what later would be called Multnomah County was home to many tribal people. We honor the indigenous people on whose traditional and ancestral homelands we stand. The Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Tumwater, and Wadalala bands of the Chinook, the Tualatin, Kalapuya, and many other indigenous nations of the Columbia River. It's important to acknowledge the ancestors of this place and recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their descendants. And now I want to be the first to offer a hearty congratulations to our graduates. It's been a long and for some of you a winding journey, and here you are. Now, graduates, you probably know that there are folks here today who are almost as excited as you are that this day has finally come. Your spouses, significant others, your parents, your children, family members, and friends who've supported you in so very many ways throughout your law school career. Graduates, please stand and join us in applauding your supporters who are here today. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Lewis & Clark's president, Wim Wiewel. President Wiewel is a nationally recognized expert in urban planning. The first in his family to go to college, Wim is a U.S. citizen and native of the Netherlands, where he received a classic liberal arts education and studied 6 languages. Since arriving at Lewis & Clark in the fall of 2017, President Wiewel has brought new energy, vision, and focus to our community. Here are just a few of his accomplishments so far. He has led the development and implementation of a strategic plan and campus master plan. He started the quiet phase, not so quiet now, of our first comprehensive fundraising campaign in 20 years, and is creating advisory boards for entrepreneurship, sustainability, and international engagement. Please Please join me in welcoming Lewis & Clark's 25th president, Wim Wiewel.
Thank you, Dean Johnson, and good morning all. It's great to be with you today, and congratulations, graduates, you did it! And you did it just in time because our world needs you. We need you not only for what you've learned here, but also for how you've learned. By testing the upper limits of your endurance, mental, physical, and emotional, and by getting help and giving help along the way. The world needs people who finish what they start and who do not turn back when the going gets tough. We need people who know that the law thrives through robust debates about its meaning and interpretation, and that it withers from willful misrepresentation. People who have the skill and the determination to do the reading, research, and outreach needed to get the facts, and who then proceed to make their case rather than manipulate the facts. And we need people who know that it's possible to do well and to do good at the same time, who know that personal success and community well-being are not opposing forces. The world needs you, and you're ready. Ready because our amazing faculty have taught, mentored, and encouraged you along the way. And ready because our staff have supported whatever you needed to do to reach this moment. This year at Lewis & Clark, we began implementing our strategic plan, Exploring for the Global Good. We declare in the plan that our 3 distinctive schools, the Law School, the Graduate School of Education, and the College of Art and Sciences, are united by a core purpose: to empower our graduates to make a positive impact on the world. You have already been doing that in many ways, locally and globally, through pro bono and community service work, through our clinics, centers, and institutes, through working on law reviews and competing in moot court. You've also been making a positive impact whenever you share something with a classmate, appropriately, study notes, coffee, or time for each of you to catch your breath. In all of this, you've been moving the law forward. I ask now that you continue doing that. Take what you've learned here with you, the content, the case studies, the codes, and put it into practice. But also take the how you've learned here, through the culture of the school, the care and support of its people, and make that the standard by which you live your life and advance your profession. All of us stand with you and by you as you embrace the challenges and create the opportunities that are now rightfully yours. You are ready, more than ready, to do that. And as you pursue your careers, I'll ask you to do this. Stay in touch. Let us know what you're doing and how you're doing. Be active alumni, just as you've been active and fully engaged students. Share with current students and those still to come the mentoring and support that you experienced. I wish you well, congratulations, and good luck. Thank you.
Mr. President, it is my great pleasure to present Mr. Paul H. Casey for an honorary Juris Doctor degree from Lewis and Clark Law School. Paul Casey is a graduate of Portland's Grant High School, Oregon State University, and Whittier College in California, where he received his master's degree in education. He spent his professional career as a high school teacher. Paul is here today with his daughter, Maureen Casey, his son-in-law, Marlon McKeever, his son, Tim Casey, and daughter-in-law, Louise Casey. Paul also has 6 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. His granddaughter, Danielle Olson, joins us today. And if I may, ask the Casey family to stand so we may recognize you. Paul Casey and his family have long been instrumental in supporting the law school, both in terms of scholarships for students and faculty support. In so doing, they have set a very high philanthropic bar that provides an extraordinary role model for our entire law school community. In 2004, inspired by an earlier gift by his late father, Henry Casey, Paul established the Paul H. Casey Scholarships for Lewis and Clark law students, 2 in business law and 2 in public interest law. In April of 2015, in honor of the law school's centennial, Paul permanently endowed the Casey Scholarships. This was a landmark gift for our school, representing the largest single donation for scholarships in our history. To date, we have awarded nearly 60 Casey Scholarships. And while I could regale you with stories of the great success of our Casey Scholars, permit me just one story. I first met Paul in 2014 when he honored us with a visit to the law school. After meeting again in California and hearing more about Paul's life and his family, I decided it was time for a photo of Paul Casey for our Alumni Advocate magazine. We were doing a story on paying it forward. So I drove to Paul's home in Vancouver, Washington, accompanied by Jerry Carlton, a former Casey scholar and law school graduate who'd recently formed his own law firm. At the time he received the Casey Scholarship, Jerry, a great student, was preparing to quit law school. He simply couldn't afford to stay. He and his wife were living on a budget of $10 a month. So the Casey Scholarship was life-changing for Jerry, allowing him to stay in school and graduate. Today, as a successful attorney, Jerry gives back to the law school. Each year, he awards a student scholarship in the same amount he once received from Paul Casey. And, graduates, Jerry's firm hires at least one Lewis and Clark graduate every year, all made possible by Paul Casey. The Casey Scholarships reflect Paul Casey's personal vision of education, one that celebrates not only intellectual enrichment, but also devotion to integrity and character, as well as a commitment to public service. Over the past few years, it's been my great pleasure to spend time with Paul and his family. And today, I'm truly honored to present my friend, Paul Casey, for an honorary Juris Doctor degree from Lewis and Clark Law School. Mr. Casey, would you please come forward?
Paul H. Casey, you have spent your life supporting education, first as a teacher and later as a philanthropist. As a graduate of Portland's Grant High School, Oregon State University, and Whittier College, you spent your professional career as a high school teacher. You've been instrumental in supporting our law school and setting an example of philanthropy that has served as a model for others. In 2007, in recognition of your positive influence on the campus community, you were named an honorary alumnus of Lewis and Clark Law School. When you established the Paul H. Casey Scholarships, two in business law and two in public interest law, you honored a vision that education provides not only a path to intellectual enrichment, but also a foundation for strengthening integrity, character, and a commitment to public service. When you later honored our law school centennial by endowing these same scholarships, you demonstrated how a deep legacy may also be extended well into the future. Casey scholars have pursued remarkable careers, and following your inspiration, they in turn have given back to the community and to their school. For your distinguished leadership and long-standing philanthropy, and for upholding the timeless values of personal honor and ethical behavior, Lewis and Clark is honored this day to confer on you, Paul H. Casey, the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Good enough. Congratulations.
Now it is my great honor to introduce our graduation speaker, the Honorable Michael McShane, a 1988 graduate of our law school. Judge McShane is one of 6 Article III federal judges serving the District of Oregon, having been nominated to the bench by President Obama in 2012 and confirmed in 2013. Judge McShane received his Bachelor of Arts degree, magna cum laude, from Gonzaga University. He moved to Portland and joined the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, where he did outreach to homeless parolees and probationers, many of whom had mental health issues and were addicts. After his law school graduate, cum laude, in 1988, Judge McShane joined the ranks of the Metropolitan Public Defender's Office in Portland, where he became supervisor of the felony section. He joined the Multnomah County Circuit Court in 1997, presiding over a variety of criminal and civil cases, including 25 capital cases. In 2014, almost exactly 5 years ago today, now federal Judge McShane wrote the opinion in Geiger versus Kitzhaber that paved the way for all Oregonians to marry the partner of their choice. And just 3 weeks ago, Judge McShane issued a nationwide preliminary injunction sought by 20 states, including Oregon, as well as the District of Columbia, Planned Parenthood, and the American Medical Association against the so-called physician gag rule, Judge McShane found the federal rule represented, quote, a ham-fisted approach to health policy that recklessly disregards the health outcomes of women, family, and communities. Judge McShane taught trial advocacy and criminal procedure for many years at Lewis and Clark Law School and continues to lecture to students and practitioners. Judge McShane is on the boards of the Jesuit Volunteer Corps Northwest and the Wayne Moore Center for Law and Politics. He works with numerous organizations serving at-risk youth, including Oregon National Guard's Youth Challenge program in Bend, Oregon. Judge McShane lives in Eugene with his husband, Gregory Ford, who's here with us today. Greg, would you please stand? Judge McShane, we are honored to have you serving as our 2019 commencement speaker and ask that you come forward to receive your honorary degree and to give us your remarks.
Michael McShane, graduating from Gonzaga University in 1983, you came to Portland to work with at-risk youth and the homeless and disadvantaged. You have continued the deep commitment to service during your studies at our law school and through your work as an attorney, prosecutor, public defender, state judge, and federal judge. In generously sharing your knowledge and life experiences with both the legal community and the public at large through teaching and mentoring, you have expanded our understanding of the law's capacity to transform individuals and society for the better. In your decision declaring that the state of Oregon's ban on same-gender marriage was unconstitutional, you demonstrated that the law contains within itself elements of precedent, justice, and reconciliation that can break new ground in our long journey towards equity. For your distinguished service to the people of Oregon, for your eloquent writings that engage the conscience of our nation, and for demonstrating that a life marked by service is a life well lived, Lewis and Clark is honored this day to confer on you, Michael J. McShane, the degree of Doctors of Law honoris causa.
Thank you, Dean Johnson, President. Thank you, faculty and board, but most of all, thank you to the class of 2019. It is so great to be back home at Lewis and Clark Law School, where my own legal career got off to its fitful start in 1988. I have to say I'm a little bit nervous about giving a commencement speech. They're not always the most memorable part of a graduation. I thought I could draw some inspiration from the person who stood here some 31 years ago and gave the commencement speech to my class. I was sitting somewhere over there. Unfortunately, I have no memory of who that person is or what they said. And I don't have legal marijuana to blame for it. So I wrote to my classmates from 1988. I sent them an email and said, help me out. Who spoke? And what did they say? And these are the responses that I got. Dear pathetic Michael, oh, the ironies of ironies. Our forgettable speaker was a white, middle-aged male federal judge, much like yourself. He put us to sleep talking about professionalism. The only difference between you and him is that you know nothing about professionalism, and he was straight. Go with your strong suit, my friend. Gay it up and don't put the poor students to sleep. I'm not sure I know what she means by that, but dear Michael, your memory is worse than you think. We did not graduate together. I graduated from University of Oregon Law School. How did you ever become a federal judge? You are such a dork. Dear Michael, such a wise move on the part of the law school to pick you as a speaker. Your own lackluster academic career and thoughtless path as a juvenile delinquent from Kennewick, Washington, to the federal bench will inspire confidence in even the least ambitious of the students. You're an inspiration to slackers and geeks everywhere. So with the help from those former friends, my thoughts today will be entitled The Accidental Jurist, How a Forgetful Gay Dork from Kennewick Managed to Succeed in a Courtroom. So I do promise I'm not going to give you lots of career advice. Attorneys, judges, law professors are famous for giving law graduates advice on what you need to do to succeed. I'm sure by now you've heard it all. We've told you about the importance of networking and the need for mentor relationships and how to market yourself to potential employers. We advise you to get yourself involved in pro bono work, internships, specialty bar associations, diversity bar associations, and bar committees. We suggest you get courtroom experience while, in the same breath, with no sense of irony, we tell you that new lawyers never get any courtroom experience. We tell you that the experience of your first job will shape your career, and then we tell you take any job you can get and worry about your career later. We invite you to employment strategy sessions and networking breakfasts and mentor luncheons and job fair cocktail hours, and then we send you on your merry way to the informational interview. Everywhere you go, you hear the constant refrain that you have to do more and more and more. There is a reason why that goldfish you purchased your first year and bravely named Atticus is no longer with you. You took this advice of doing more and more and more, and you found him floating belly up in his dish with a note that it pinned to its own chest that simply read, "The law is a bitch." The future is a hard world to live in. Some of you have found jobs, and you may be wondering if it is the right choice or the right fit. Many of you are looking at massive debt, and many of you haven't found jobs yet. I can imagine you might be stressed, you might feel inadequate for the task ahead, and that you might put on a brave smile but feel a twinge of self-doubt as you head off to that 14th informational interview while everybody around you seems to have such a clear trajectory towards their future. Today I'm here to tell you not to take it all too seriously. All of you have everything you need to succeed by being no more or no less than yourself. I do have a confession to make. I think people think that as a federal judge I must be confident and self-assured. It's not true. I still worry to this day that everything that President Obama will say in his memoirs when he says, "What's the worst mistake you make?" will still be appointing me to the bench. I've never felt confident that it was a good decision. I've always been nagged by that feeling. I've been way over my head and way out of my league. In fact, my path to this law school and eventual career in the courtroom was as aimless as it was accidental. I was not a child who grew up dreaming of being a judge or a lawyer. I had no frame of reference for that. I didn't know any lawyers. My only experience in the courtroom was a brief visit to one when I was 16 years old over a minor indiscretion. I put on my brother's Letterman jacket, I forged my name on my sister's report card, and I put my mother's rosary around my neck. It turns out that God grades in football are a great defense in rural America. But I was never on the debate team, I never did mock trial, I never attended government camp. I don't actually recall ever reading the Constitution until I got to law school and was in constitutional law. As a matter of fact, the only answer I can ever remember giving whenever asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" was when I was 5 years old. I had just seen Cinderella, and so I would proudly announce to anybody, when I grow up, I am going to be a fairy godmother. My brothers had great fun making sure every hapless visitor to our house made this inquiry of me, and of course it was a source of great embarrassment to my parents when the dialogue continued at the age of 18. But I'm still convinced it's my dream job. And look at this outfit. Give me a wand and we're all going home in pumpkins, I think. So I do want to talk a little bit about that path, how I stumbled into law school in this courtroom, how a badly thought out idea turned into a great experience, how a decision that lacked any clear motive could end up leading me to a career and a community that I love deeply, how I ended up doing the very thing that I feared most in life, using my voice. So there are three things that I want you to take away from this conversation. I'm going to point them out to make them clear. The first proposition is that sometimes luck is more important than competence. You can be great at what you do, and you can still fail to accomplish what you set out to do. Sometimes just standing in the right place at the right time next to the right person will be the catalyst that will change your life. So let me tell you a story about luck. Many years ago, when I was a judge in Portland, my son was about 11 years old, and he announced to the whole household in the middle of the night that we were out of toilet paper. He waited till he was sitting on the toilet to make that announcement. So being the father that I am, I ran down to Fred Meyer's in the middle of the night and grabbed one of those giant crates of toilet paper. But because that looks a little bit creepy, I also grabbed a bottle of red wine. There in the checkout stand in front of me is a young man with 2 crates of diapers and a 6-pack of beer. He was wearing an Iowa Law t-shirt on, and we got talking, and sure enough, he had just moved to Portland with his wife and his new baby. He had just taken and passed the Oregon bar, and he was looking for work. I invited him down to the courthouse to chat with me over coffee. 2 days later, he came down to the courthouse. I introduced him to our court administrator, who's looking for a floater clerk, a temporary clerk, and he was hired 2 days later. 2 months later, one of our judges needed a regular term clerk and hired him. When his term finished a year later, that judge's old law firm hired him as an associate. Today, he's the managing partner of one of the largest firms in Portland. Whenever he sees my son, who's now 25, he always says, "Brandon, that was the most profitable dump you've ever taken." So the second proposition is that endurance is sometimes more important than brains. It really does not matter how smart you are from this point forward. Intelligence and creativity are cheap. They're a dime a dozen. Law schools are churning out fiercely bright people and creative types, much like yourselves. Some of you may one day do great things, but in the meantime, you will, for the most part, be surrounded by the mundane. You will be doing the day-to-day task of working, paying bills, supporting a family. My father, when I was growing up, always had this saying, "Brains don't get you over the bridge." I thought it was a universal saying, something everyone said, and we grew up with this saying. I'd come home with good grades. He'd go, "Those are great, but brains don't get you over the bridge." I'd stumble on some sort of math problem. He'd say, "Don't worry about it, brains don't get you over the bridge." My father was a nuclear scientist. He had a lot of brains. But later in life, somebody asked me, "You keep saying that term, what does it mean?" I didn't really know. I looked it up and it wasn't there. I Googled it. I couldn't find it anywhere. My father at this point was dead, and I didn't know what he meant by this, so I asked my mother. My father was in World War II and crossed the Remagen Bridge. If you saw the movie, it was the bridge too far. 40% of his platoon was killed in the crossing. Before he crossed the bridge, his first lieutenant, who would be killed shortly after, said, "Men, this is simple. Don't overthink it. The only thing you need to do is put your head down, put your feet one after another as fast as you can. You've been doing this since you were a child. Brains aren't going to get you over this bridge." Being smart does not always necessarily get you through the harder moments in life. Being smart does not always help you when your job seems to be unfulfilling and your spouse is complaining you are working too much. Sometimes we are required simply to endure. The final proposition that I want to talk about more at length is that it is perfectly acceptable to do things for all the wrong reasons. We do it all the time, and we're so good at lying to ourselves that we often don't even realize we're doing it. But here's the important part. We are never obligated to fill the mistakes or the motives of our former self. We are only accountable to the present. The question is never what got you here, it's why am I staying? A Catholic priest told me that once. He became a priest for all the wrong reasons. He wanted to hide. He didn't even believe in God. That's kind of a hurdle to being a priest, you would think. But he stayed for the right reasons. Ultimately, he died in El Salvador fighting for the poor and for social justice. There is somebody who found the right reason to stay. On that last point, I want to talk about my own motives for coming to this law school and pursuing a career in law. I went to law school for all of the wrong reasons, for terrible reasons. Primarily, I was afraid to do anything else. I was afraid I would fail at what I was particularly passionate about, creative writing and the natural sciences. I was afraid I would not meet my parents' expectations if I did not become a professional. I was afraid I was out of options, and I was destined to moving back to my parents' basement and living with their 2 Pomeranians named Sassy and Spanky. So how did I get to that point? How did I get to a point where I was going to law school with no passion in the law and no clue what I could possibly do with a law degree? Well, I grew up surrounded by the wheat fields in a small town called Kennewick, Washington. Kennewick, according to my father, was a Yakama Nation term that means where the wild geese go to drink and fight and crap and die. I actually believed that for many years. I used to make fun of my partner for being from the South, all the jokes about the deformed kid with the banjo on the porch and your cousins marrying your goats, all those things. All of that stopped when he visited Kennewick. He describes Kennewick as the South without good food, relevant architecture, or a literary tradition. Kennewick is still not an easy place to grow up gay. That was particularly true when I was growing up in the 1970s. In the social hierarchy of high school today, being gay isn't such a big deal. It's like being in marching band. In the social hierarchy of the 1970s, most of us thought that being dead was one step ahead of being gay. Despite being a hick town, Kennewick being a hick town, my friends still refer to it as the Paris of the Inland Empire. They started calling it Paris when I stumbled out of the closet in 1979. I was getting into so many fights in the hallway that finally one of the teachers asked what was going on. One of my classmates decided to let him in on the little secret that the whole school seemed to know by telling him McShane is a homo. This was fairly novel to Kennewick at the time, and certainly novel to my teacher. He looked at me without any irony and he said, "I thought all you homos lived in Paris." Now today I would be offended by that. Back then, I took it with great hope, harboring the optimistic zeal and the view that perhaps there was a place for people like me, and it obviously must be Paris. I immediately dropped German and took up French at the suggestion of my track coach. He also was the opinion that Paris was the safest place for me. I started wearing berets, ascots, and striped shirts to school. I looked like a sad mime, but I vowed that someday I would make it to Europe and find that community of gay Parisians who would be waiting there for me. My dreams of going to Paris never materialized. I only got as far as Spokane, Washington, where I went to Gonzaga University. And in retrospect, and some of you parents out here, grandparents may remember this, had I gone to, despite thinking I was the Andy Warhol of Kennewick, at that time I was wearing Britannia stovepipe jeans, tricolor platform shoes, embroidered denim shirts. Had I made it to Paris, they would have stoned me to death on the Champs-Élysées. So I ended up going to Gonzaga University, where I got a degree in English literature. I'd spent my summers working at a slaughterhouse, so I know you can imagine the job offers that were coming in for literate meat cutters. I decided a day after graduation, a friend and I, we hitchhiked to Wyoming, where we were promised jobs in the oil fields. By the time we got there, the entire crew had been laid off. Luckily for me, that one term of French paid off, and I got a job in Gillette, Wyoming's only French restaurant. The interview consisted of me reading the menu, and when I pronounced Coquille Saint-Jacques with some proficiency, the manager started to cry. The restaurant itself had a French Revolution theme. The waiters were required to wear knee socks, knickers, a flouncy red silk shirt with big sleeves, and a scarlet cap. I looked like I was on the set of the Pirates of the Penzance. I'm sure you can imagine the comments that I got every day from the passing pickups as I walked to work. It was brutal. Having now grown up in Kennewick, gone to school in Spokane, and finding myself somewhat stranded in Gillette, and I had to say I've developed a healthy sense of otherness. The early 1980s were not kind to gay pirates. It was time to make a change, and that change, for better or for worse, was going to be law school. Now, many people go to law school because they want to be Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. My motive in going to law school was to marry Atticus Finch. I thought he was pretty much the coolest guy. I had no career plan. I did not have much interest in any particular field, and I had a paralyzing fear of public speaking. I was a dork in law school. I'm not saying this to be self-deprecating. This fear of public speaking was overwhelming. I was the student who showed up to appellate advocacy with a little splash of vomit on his shoes because I threw up routinely the night and the morning before. I was the student who always tried to stay under the professor's radar for fear that I would be found out to be a fraud. I was a student who never really felt that I had a lot to add to the conversation. I was afraid of everything, particularly speaking. I would like to think that growing up as the lone gay warrior in Kennewick had made me brave, but life isn't like that. It had kept me quiet, and it kept me apart. It kept me from feeling like I belonged in the world of normal. So it was odd then that I would find myself in a courtroom upon passing the bar. I had never been in one before. The first trial that I ever tried was the first that I ever saw was the first case that I tried myself. And I threw up like clockwork the night and the morning before. When I told my therapist I had taken a job at the public defender's, he raised his eyebrows and asked, "Michael, you realize this is a speaking part?" He wasn't a very good therapist now that I think about it. Now you may ask, why would I take a job that I was so ill-suited for? Well, life threw me what you might call a curve. It was just a couple days after I took the bar exam when I got a call that my partner had collapsed at work and had been taken to the hospital. He was sick and he was going to die. He was the same young man that had kept me in Portland because I had fallen in love. He had taken 2 jobs so that I could get through law school without any debt. He was only 25 years old and he would be dead within a year. All of my plans seemed to be crashing around me. I was to work in a firm doing transactional work. I had been interviewing with 3 large firms. I was going to do billable hours. I would never see the inside of a courtroom. I was going to become rich. I went to talk to one of the firms that was interested in bringing me on. And remember, this is the 1980s. It was a very different time. You didn't tell people about yourself. And now I had to tell them, by the way, I have a boyfriend at home who's dying from a cruel disease, this frightening disease at that time, and I'm going to need a flexible work schedule to be able to help him. They said they understood. The next day I got a call from the managing partner who said that they were having a hiring freeze and they would not be hiring new associates for another year. 3 weeks later, they hired one of my classmates. This is where endurance comes in. I went to a bar to get a drink. I sat down next to a man who was drinking to great excess. He asked me what I did, and I told him at that point I had just taken the bar, and he started yelling expletives about goddamn lawyers. It turned out he was one. I told him my sad story. He had just lost a homicide case. He'd been in trial for 2 months and was, I think, drinking away his sorrow. I told him my sad story, thinking he was too drunk to care. He asked me for my phone number. I gave it to him. This is where luck comes in. The next day, the drunk at the bar called me and asked me to come down to his office. It turned out he wasn't just an attorney. He was one of the supervising attorneys at the public defender's office. He showed me around the office. He told me to apply. He told me they had jobs, lots of jobs. He told me I would be safe there. And this is where doing things for all the wrong reasons comes in. I became a public defender not out of a sense of serving the poor or justice. I became a public defender to feel safe at the worst moment of my life. But there was something about entering a courtroom that was the most transformative thing for me. I remember my first client. She was a very haggard prostitute. She was 63 years old. Her life had been a faucet drip of domestic violence and drug addiction. When the judge asked me, "What can you tell me about your client, Mr. McShane?" I froze. It seemed like it was hours. It was probably 15, 20 seconds. The woman looked down at me with sad eyes and she whispered, "Hey, asshole, are you going to say something or what?" And I did. I was no Atticus Finch, but it turns out that speaking for someone else was not nearly as difficult as speaking for myself. It turned out that simply wanting to help other people, folks whose addiction, mental illness, anger, or life circumstances had rendered them silent, was what would make the courtroom my home for these many years. When we think of lawyers and what a good lawyer looks like, we often don't think of ourselves. I certainly did not. I hear so many law students say what I thought then. The courtroom is not for me. I don't have the personality. I don't have the ego. I don't have the swagger. I don't have that kind of confidence. Stumbling into this law school and ultimately a courtroom was the best thing I ever did, even though I did it for all of the wrong reasons. It has made me a happy person, and I wish you the same happiness. I know that there are many saying there are too many of you these days. There are too many lawyers graduating from law school, that a law career these days is not as prestigious as it once was. There's no money to be had in it. That if any of you were good at math, you most certainly would have gone to medical school. Don't buy into this pessimism. Yes, there are problems with the system, but the problem is not too many lawyers. The problems, and these are problems that my generation has bequeathed to you, is that we should be paying you to pursue a vocation in justice instead of bankrupting you. We can't steer you towards careers in justice when so many of you need debt relief. But the problem is not too many lawyers. Justice deserves the biggest chorus we can bring together, not a barbershop quartet. Just look around you, and you know this to be true. Our environment is being destroyed as we speak. The rule of law is being challenged in the highest level of our government. Our jails are being filled with the mentally ill. Laws are being passed that would put another class of Americans in the back of the bus in the name of religious freedom. Veterans of war are waiting in line for basic health care. Minorities are being disenfranchised from the voting booth. The homeless are being arrested for camping. We're incarcerating addicts rather than treating them. We're still paying and promoting women less than their male counterparts. We are traumatizing the children of refugees by separating them from their parents. Justice deserves more voices, not less. I found my voice in a courtroom. I found it by accident, but I found it. You too will find your voice, and it's a voice that needs to be heard. As you leave this law school, it is up to you to be that voice, despite your reservations, your fears, and your uncertainty. It does not have to be a big voice, a brassy voice, a pandering voice. We don't need loud amens. Soft hallelujahs will do just fine. But it simply has to be this: a voice of dignity for the prostitute who has lost her dignity, a voice of preservation for an environment that's being destroyed, a voice of reason for the mentally ill who have lost their reason, a voice of access to the poor who cannot afford legal services, a voice of justice for the victim, a voice of calm for the violent, a voice of hope for those in fear, a voice of humanity for those who have lost their humanity. You can do this, and you can do it by being your adorably flawed selves. You can do it and be vulnerable, and you can even be afraid. Class of 2019, this is what you're called to do, whether you know it yet or not. Thank you in advance for the voices that you will bring to our wonderful vocation. And from the bottom of my heart, I tell you this: I'll see you all in court. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge McShane. Each year, we invite the student who graduated with the highest grade point average to speak at this ceremony. This year, the honor goes to Zachary Nelson. Zach? Zach is a Midwestern transplant from South Dakota. Before coming to Lewis and Clark, he earned his master's and bachelor's degree in political science from Colorado State University and the University of South Dakota. While in law school, he worked for a large firm, a solo practitioner, two professors, Professors Stumpf and Klonoff, and the state ACLU. He was also a teaching fellow for upper division courses, a guest lecturer in constitutional law too, and the notes and comments editor for the Lewis and Clark Law Review. Following graduation, Zach will clerk for Judge Susan Graber of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and then the following year for Chief Judge Lee Rosenthal of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas. Please welcome Zach Nelson.
Thank you, Dean Johnson. I'm very honored to be standing here today. I recognize that many of my classmates have probably heard enough of me speaking the last couple of years, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. I'd like to start by thanking everybody that traveled to be here today. Many of you traveled very far distances, and we are all so incredibly grateful that you made the trip. I also want to give a shout out to my mom, because she's a fantastic mom, and she deserves some special recognition. Yeah. And finally, I want to thank Bacon for letting us all graduate. I guess those tributes worked. Today is a joyous day. Today, we celebrate finishing one of the most difficult, draining, and debt-building exercises and self-punishment available. In the last few years, we have worked, sometimes for pay. We volunteered, and sometimes we had to pay to do it. We went to 100 events and tried to learn 1,000 names. And all the while, we read case after case, sent email after email, and basically just gave up on the idea of sleep. But we kept going, and we kept going, and here we are now. Years ago, each of us started down the difficult path that has now brought us to this moment. Today, we celebrate because we remain stalwart in the face of adversity, and because we gave the very best of ourselves to the pursuit of our legal education. But we didn't reach today alone, of course. Though we began 1L as a collection of strangers, we have since grown into a strong, supportive community. Year after year, we have supported one another in ways most people wouldn't expect from lawyers in training. We have checked one another's outlines, resumes, and cover letters. We have shared job postings. We have shared important professional contacts. And we have helped one another in ways too varied and too unique for me to give full picture of. As a brief example, during my first year summer, a fellow classmate literally gave me housing in a city that I could otherwise never afford. As a class, we have actively endeavored to help one another succeed. We have demonstrated unequivocally that personal success is not a zero-sum game. Moreover, our class has impacted the very foundations of who we are as individuals. We have spent the past several years trudging together through moral quagmires, philosophical impasses, and practical dilemmas. In our concrete classrooms, we critically challenged one another's concepts of right and wrong. Because of one another, we now leave law school with a fuller understanding of opposing perspectives and a greater appreciation of our society's vast diversity. Our individual worldviews now bear clear traces of our time together. The lenses with which we view ourselves and the world around us have been forever augmented by our collective journey towards greater understanding. And I think that's pretty incredible. In our time together, we have enriched one another mentally, emotionally, and professionally. These contributions will only shine brighter in time. In the decades to come, when we reflect on our tenure as law students, our most vibrant memories will be those that we made with one another. We will remember the long days and the long nights. We will remember the events that brought us all together, and we will remember each other's radical ideas, passionate arguments, and absurd hypotheticals. I know, for example, I will never forget a certain classmate's concern in Professor Oleski's torts class about how tort law would handle acid pits in living rooms. Going forward, we will also remember the fabulous mentors, faculty, and staff who kept us afloat and who answered even our stupidest questions. Those that guided us on the path through law school have given more than we can repay, and we will strive forevermore to emulate their kindness, wisdom, and generosity. In a few moments, we will cross this stage and become law graduates. For some of us, this will be a proud extension of a family tradition. For first-generation students like myself, it will break new ground. For many of us, the parents, the immigrants, the veterans, the members of marginalized communities, it will signal a hard-earned triumph over numerous societal barriers. But regardless our individual backgrounds, we will become forever unified in professional camaraderie as graduates of Lewis and Clark Law School. And when we cross this stage in a few moments, we will also join one of the most elite classes of people in the country, the extreme minority of persons trained in the law. Nationwide, attorneys make up approximately 0.5% of the population. In Oregon, there are 260 adults for every attorney. In my home state of South Dakota, that ratio is 440 to 1. The overwhelming majority of our friends, family, and neighbors lack the knowledge and skills that we have worked so hard these past few years to develop. We are now the privileged few who know their rights, how to exercise them, and how to seek redress. We have analyzed the Constitution and the laws of states, cities, and nations. We have read the ancient texts and their modern interpretations. We have studied the arcane special words that can mean the difference between justice and injustice, freedom and incarceration, life and death. Our most respected forebears wielded this awesome power for the betterment of our society. Indeed, many of them inspired us to pursue our own legal education. Today, we celebrate our ability to carry on their mission. And while we may each wield our newfound power in a multitude of ways, I want to encourage us briefly to always keep in mind our profound collective role. As we have learned, the law can be confusing, outdated, offensive, unreadable, or downright cruel. Yet 99% of our neighbors will depend on us to help them make sense of it all. As we enter a new world of privilege and prestige, we thus have a collective duty to support our broader community. We have a social duty to explain the law to those affected by it. We have a moral duty to ensure that vulnerable communities understand their rights and their resources. We must amplify the voices too long silenced, speak clearly the language of reason, and sing boldly the chorus of justice. As law graduates, we will have nothing less than a collective democratic duty to safeguard the basic liberties so painfully earned by the blood, sweat, and tears of those who came before us. Now that is a profound responsibility. But standing here today, I'm very confident that we are up to the challenge. After all, we made it through law school. Thank you, and congratulations, everyone. We did it.
Will the candidates for the degree of Master of Studies in Law please rise? Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all of the requirements for the Master in Studies in Law degree, are hereby presented for conferring of the degree they have earned as recommended by the faculty and approved by the Board of Trustees.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Lewis and Clark College under the laws of the State of Oregon, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Studies in Law with all the responsibilities and privileges thereto appertaining.
Will the candidates please come forward?
Marielle Therese Cowden. Jessica Graber. Shannon Hearn. Nathan Liu.
Will the candidates for the degree of Master of Laws please rise? Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all of the requirements for the Master of Laws degree, are hereby presented for the conferring of the degree they have earned as recommended by the faculty and approved by the Board of Trustees.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Lewis and Clark College under the laws of the State of Oregon, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Laws with all the responsibilities and privileges thereto appertaining.
Will the candidates please come forward?
Ryan D. Crone. Layla Marie Arifi-Poor. Christine C. Bernhard. Priska Daka. Anthony Charles Gerens. Thomas Jateco. Joseph Jeremy Mason. Lorna Zaira Munoz Prudencio. Judy Wengari Moretti. Sahana Ramdas. Tess Louise Vickery.
Will the candidates for the degree of Juris Doctor please rise? Mr. President, these candidates, having completed the requirements for the Juris Doctor degree, are hereby presented for the conferring of the degree they have earned, as recommended by the faculty and approved by the Board of Trustees.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Lewis and Clark College under the laws of the State of Oregon, I confer upon each of you the degree of Juris Doctor with all the responsibilities and privileges thereto appertaining.
Will the candidates please come forward?
Jeffrey Todd Adams. Yasemin Afzal. Megan Elizabeth Amos. Trenton J. Andreasen. Matthew Bacon. Alexis Barsana Baelio. Carrie L. Behrman. Nicholas K. Ball, cum laude. Annie Pearl Barber. Natalie Renee Behringer. Madeline Faye Bergman.
Professor Patrick Benjamin. Did you skip Benjamin?
Oh. Sean. Okay. Sean Benjamin. Nicholas Vincent Beyer, magna cum laude. Tyler Richard Byerline. Xiao Man Bien. Rachel M. Blackburn, cum laude. Cassandra Blake. Alexander Jamal Boone, cum laude. Caroline Faith Brinster. Helen Lee Brockman, cum laude. Lucy Juliette Brookham. Austin Buell. Jonathan Min Viet Bui. Michael Thomas Burleson. Jose Luis Bustillos. Crystal Ashton Kaigoy. James Joseph Carlson. Francis Karshan. Caitlin Joanne Clements. Philip Joseph Coleman. Christina Elizabeth Collier. Natasha Marie Collins. Adrienne Spencer Craig, magna cum laude. Jennifer Renee Cundiff. Roland Kuyuch. Stacy Lee Damaso, cum laude. Lindsay N. Daniel. Cassandra Dawn. Danielle Iris DeCant. Mika Finnemore DeVrend. Kaylee Annalise Dickerboom. Soko Sunny Ieth. Kirk Jende Edson. Trevor J. Isley, cum laude. Courtney Elizabeth Engel, cum laude. Leanna Lynn Erickson. Benjamin Robert Espana. Jason Paul Evans.
Don't mess it up, Professor Patrick.
Maxwell Harrison Evans. Daniel Chung Fan. Elizabeth Page Finney, cum laude. Quincy Kristen Frazier. John Colin Fry. John Daniel Friedman. Lockhart George Marshall Fulton. Kathleen Marie Gargan, cum laude. Jonathan Joseph Gersten. Martin Alexander Gibson, cum laude. Elizabeth Gurdon. Elizabeth Ann Graves, cum laude. Johannes Gray. Carolyn Teresa Griffin. Ligia Suzanne Brozov. Elise M. Hampton. Byron Lloyd Harmon. Allison Marie Harper. Hamza Zahid Hashmi. Kimmy Haynes. Justin Michael Heath. Rachel Lynn Heatley. Daryl C. Henderson, cum laude. Akila Harath. Brittany Jean Hill, cum laude. Haley Dawn Hollis, cum laude. Madeline Claire Holmes, summa cum laude. Rachel Charlotte Hummel, magna cum laude. Amanda Evelyn Houston. Sanjay Ince Johansson, cum laude. Therese Nicole Jacobson. Andrew John Jenkins. Shannon Johnson. Lindsay Field Jonason, summa cum laude. Harry Albert Cantor, cum laude. Brandon Cascawal, cum laude. Brooks Philip Kern, cum laude. Boktower Khan. Tao Tien Ku. Caitlin Emily Kinberg, cum laude. Benjamin J. Kirsch. Elias Anderson Cohn, cum laude. Antonia Krasanik, cum laude. Olivia Ellen Kubala. Anjana Lakshmi Kumar. Erica Larson. Bruce Vincent Lepore, summa cum laude. Austin J. Lewis. Andrew Gerald Linden, cum laude. Carmen Maureen Livengood. Brian Joseph Loschel. Aaron Ford. John William McMorris Oddux, magna cum laude. Megan Brody Meyer. Michael Martin. Blake T.E. Marvis, magna cum laude. Declan John McGarry, cum laude. Andrew Joseph McIntyre. Janelle Christine Miller. Zachary Tyler Nelson, summa cum laude. Joel Reed Newey. Seamus Padraig O'Connor. Keenan Orden Bacallion, cum laude. Tanya Alexandrovna Panutich. Rachel Lee Perry, cum laude. Ann Jordan Finney. Samuel J. Pope, cum laude. Benjamin Tyler Pratt. Jerry R. Rabin. Victoria Petrova Rodenkova. Jenny Marie Rayfelt. Emily A. Reed. Danielle Replogle, cum laude. Rebecca Ann Richmond. Maya Renta, cum laude. Cooper Britton Rogers. Nicholas Daniel Rogers, cum laude. Bridget Kelsey Rollins. Allison Delaney Roth, magna cum laude. Randy Marie Schmidt, cum laude. David John Shuck. Joshua Michael Sherman, cum laude. Lily Ann Schoen, cum laude. Josiah David Shoup, cum laude. Hallie Dunsmore Simpson. Caitlin Rose Sculan. Matthew Aaron Small. Teresa Chalmers Smith. Taylor Snell. David Roy Sorensen. Ross Allen Stansberry, cum laude. Pavlo Chris Stavru. Genevieve Francis Steele. Shannon Nicole Sear. Erin Christine Tannock. Nicholas Japheth Teeler. Benjamin C. Thompson. Stephen William Thorpe, cum laude. Hendry Pauline Trammell. Lindsay Lee Verheilig. Stephen Michael Warner. Vera Emily Warren. Ashlyn Lee Whitbeck. Keatley Fawson Wilkins. Gemma Ashworth Wilson, cum laude. Auburn Raquel Wise. Rachel Gimry Wolford, cum laude. Adam Zachary Wolf. Savannah Joy Wolf, magna cum laude. Max Yaklik, cum laude. Zesli Onani Zablon, magna cum laude. Penny Zhang.
Please join me in congratulating the class of 2019. The Leo Levinson Award for Excellence in Teaching is presented annually to a faculty member elected by the graduating class. The award is named in memory of Leo Levinson, who was a member of our faculty for many years and an outstanding member of the Oregon Bar. Now, I want you to know this is the most coveted award among members of our faculty. This year, the award is presented to Professor Sandy Patrick by graduating student Anjana Kumar. Anjana pursued law school with an interest in juvenile and criminal law. While at Lewis and Clark, she explored these areas of law by externing with the Jails Project team at the American Civil Liberties Union in Los Angeles, the Oregon Innocence Project, Youth Rights and Justice, the Juvenile Division of Metropolitan Public Defender's Office, the Estate Planning Team at the Weiss Kadich Law Firm, and the Youth Legal Team with Criminal Justice Reform Clinic at Lewis and Clark Law School. She was also on the board of the Women's Law Caucus at our law school, where she organized panels to empower women in the legal profession. She volunteered with the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization to assist individuals applying for citizenship, and at McLaren, a youth correctional state facility. Somehow she found the time to graduate. Prior to law school, Anjana was the program manager for the Sexually Exploited Minors Division of Bay Area Women Against Rape, a nonprofit organization based in Oakland, California. She advocated within the juvenile delinquency and dependency systems on behalf of sexually exploited minors and at-risk youth. She plans to take the bar in Oregon and hopes to continue advocating on behalf of youth by practicing law in the juvenile field. Please welcome Anjana Kumar.
Thank you, Dean Johnson. To my fellow classmates, congratulations. To our families and friends, thank you for celebrating this momentous occasion with us. As Dean Johnson said, the Leo Levinson Excellence in Teaching Award is presented to a professor selected by the graduating class. I cannot think of a professor more deserving of this award than Professor Sandy Patrick. I've had the pleasure of taking 2 classes with Professor Patrick. Lawyering, a required first-year course designed to teach you fundamental skills to be a successful lawyer, and Advanced Analysis and Pre-Bar Skills, a course focused on improving your analytical skills to successfully pass the bar. The first year of law school can be a very stressful and emotionally challenging year. You're filled with doubts, questions, anxiety. What should I be doing? What is expected of me? How do I pass an exam? What is an outline? Every week, I would look forward to Professor Patrick's class because I knew for at least that 1 hour I would be laughing and could release some of the stress and insecurities of the week. She understands that the structure of law school is not the desired learning style for everyone, so she makes a time and effort to really understand her students as individuals and as a class. How do they learn, and what is the best way to teach this material to ensure that they actually retain it? And then proceeds to tailor every single one of her lectures to the class she has before her. Thanks to Professor Patrick, I will forever hear the Wizard of Oz because, when writing a paper. Professor Patrick truly cares about her students, and not just for their success in law school or in their legal career, but in their overall mental health and well-being. She understands the mental and emotional toll law school can have on a person, and makes it a priority that her students are not just learning how to be a better writer and a better lawyer, but how to actually take care of themselves. It is such a priority that she intertwines techniques into her class, making us stretch, breathe, stand, and even strike a star pose in the middle of her lectures. But Professor Patrick is so much more than just a professor to her students. She is a friend, a counselor, a confidant. You could walk into her office with a question about an assignment, and we will always walk out feeling as if you are ready to take on the world. Professor Patrick always takes the time out of her extremely busy schedule to listen, give advice, and problem solve. I cannot tell you the number of times I have sought out Professor Patrick in need of her support. From my first year of law school, sitting in her office, questioning my decision to attend law school, to my 3rd year, trying to figure out how to build a successful legal career while trying to start a family. Our solution? She's babysitting. Professor Patrick, you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You pushed me to overcome my self-perceived limitations and challenged me to do more, to think bigger. I would not have made it through this roller coaster of a journey we call law school without your love, your support, and your guidance. It is truly my honor to present the Leo Levinson Award to Professor Sandy Patrick.
I'm Anjana and the graduating class of 2019. I have to say, I am truly humbled with this honor, something I never, ever expected. And I'll say to Dean Perry, this is why we practice breathing, so that we can make it through moments like this. You know it's true. 3 years ago, I met so many of you in a lawyering classroom in Woodhall, and since then, you've woven yourselves into the fabric of my daily life. This class is very special. You know I don't say that about every class. You are indeed special. And Professor Kaplan and I were saying yesterday, what will we do without you? I truly have the very best job in the world, except for grading, because I get to work with so many talented, bright, wonderful, inspirational people, just like Anjana. My dear colleagues in the legal writing department, the lawyering department, as well as the faculty and staff who make up this special community. Most of all, though, to these graduates, I have gotten to work with you. I stand here in complete gratitude, not just for this award, but for having known so many of you. The Spanish poet Antonio Machado wrote a brief poem that translated says, "The road is made by walking." In these last 3 years, each of you has made your own road. Sometimes you've walked decisively, and sometimes you've stumbled, but you've continued on, and you will go farther still. And as you go, this road may sometimes feel more like the clamorous highways of life, in the words of Dr. King. Even so, you will continue. You will slip and maybe fall, and maybe face the anxiety of indecision, which I'm sure none of you have had so far, and you maybe even feel like turning back. But when you fall, when you fail, just realize that failure is simply life's way of pushing you in a different direction, towards something you were not expecting, towards something that may even be better than you could have ever imagined. Even then, on this road, you will continue because you have been blessed with this great opportunity to take what you've learned here and to use that knowledge to help someone else. More importantly, in counseling and representing others, you may find the story of who you are and who you are meant to be. And unfortunately, in the road, there lies a bump. You knew I would have to bring this up, that final obstacle on the path, the bar exam. I'm sorry, you're all thinking about it, I know. Just one day, you're asking, just one day of freedom. Could we not have heard about it? But I will say, study hard. Cancel your social media. Turn off the news. It will be the same news in August when you're done. Be disciplined. Actually practice those essays. And really, above all, make those healthy choices to take care of yourself. Eat well, take a brisk walk every day, and eat the rainbow. And of course, above all else, breathe. Families, I would tell you these graduates are going to need your support to get through this hardest 10-week semester that they've ever had. Take them food, especially chocolate and coffee, and maybe a healthy protein. Maybe help them do their laundry, even though you said you wouldn't. Give them a little money because they're going to need it. But do not, please, I beg you, don't invite them to do things. Don't invite them over. They really need to study. Please, don't tell them, you've always done well. I'm sure you'll pass the bar too. They won't believe you. Just love them and give them plenty of time and space to do what they need to do. You can have plenty of fun together in August. To this special class of 2019, thank you for this award. Thank you to my family who's here, Anna Blake, McShane, and Sean. Thank you for letting me spend so much time with this great class. I'll close with the words of Antonio Machado. Traveler, there is no road. The road is made by walking. Traveler, the road is your tracks and nothing more. I am confident that you will do amazing things on your own road, and I am so grateful that you let me walk with you for part of the way. Thank you.
Graduates, today we continue our long tradition of graduating the best and brightest new lawyers in the country. Now, your program states that this is the time for the dean's charge to the class. Now, I know Judge McShane said that you won't remember the remarks or maybe even the identity of your graduation speaker, and I can assure you, you won't remember very much of the dean's charge. And I realize that my words are all that stand between you and some great graduation parties, so I will try to be very brief. At orientation 3 or 4 years ago, I reminded you that your life as a professional began that day. I told you that first and foremost, the legal profession is one based on integrity, and that we as a faculty had high aspirations for you. And here you are, after what seems to us to be only a brief moment in time, embarking on the next stage of your life as a professional. We know you will continue to serve your profession with integrity. You will help those less fortunate. You will fight for environmental justice. You'll help families. You'll prosecute crimes, advocate for victims, and defend the rights of those unjustly accused. You will assist your clients to form and grow business enterprises, and you will work in all levels of government service. You may become a judge, like Judge McShane, a governor, like Governor Kate Brown from our class of 1985, or a congressman, like Earl Blumenauer of our class of 1976. But whatever career path you choose, we hope you choose a career that excites you, a job that motivates you to get up in the morning. And no, it may not be your first job, this job you love. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for my faculty colleagues. Use each position that you obtain, however. Enjoy it for the experience that you can gain, and keep searching until you find your passion. And never lose sight of what drew you to the law in the first place. Today, in our deeply divided country, it is more important than ever for you to use your education to support the rule of law. In the words of one of your professors, the law remains our best hope for ensuring justice and fairness, fostering economic well-being, and advancing human dignity. You now have the education and training to tackle these pressing issues of our time. As Professor Patrick noted, what most of you do not have yet is a license to tackle these issues as a lawyer. So if your passion involves the practice of law, your next step is the bar exam, the legal profession's final and very cruel rite of passage. As Professor Patrick noted, take it seriously. It's not an experience you want to relive, and we encourage you to treat your bar preparation like a job. Even if you are studying at home, get out of your pajamas, go to your computer, turn off all distracting devices, and treat it like a job. And if you're studying nearby, come to campus. We'll support you and we'll feed you. Friends and family, enjoy today, because you're not getting your new graduates back just yet. They've got a lot of more work, a few months of it, and they are going to need your support. So graduates of the class of 2019, as you go forth in the legal world and continue on your amazing journey, remember you have the talent, the skills, and commitment to make a difference. You have the power to make a difference in our world and in your communities and beyond. And like our honorary graduate, Paul Casey, use your talent to do good. In order to do good for others, first you have to be good to yourself. And these are words I actually hope you might remember. You need to be good to yourself. You need to take care of yourself, take time for yourself. Exercise. Walk, swim, run, do yoga, walk your dog. Walk my dog. Cook healthy food, watch a movie, read a good book that has nothing to do with law or, dare I say, politics. Take time for your family. Read to your kids. Go on a date with your spouse or significant other. Or for your single folks, go on a date. If you are still lucky enough to have your parents, call them. Call your mom and dad, especially your mom. Call your mom more often. Be good to yourself so you can do good for others. We're so proud of you, and while we're congratulating you on your great accomplishment today, know that we will miss you and remember you, and you will remember us. Your law school career is a time you'll never forget. You'll remember how you grew in confidence from that very first day in legal methods. You'll remember your friends, your professors. You'll remember that very first time you were called on in class. You'll remember your triumphs on an exam, in moot court, or on a paper. I promise you, if not right now, then very soon you will look back fondly on your years at Lewis and Clark Law School as we look back fondly on you. We hope you stay in touch and continue to share with us the important moments of your life. Please join me, friends, family, supporters, once again, in congratulating the class of 2019. Now, I would like to invite everyone to join us for a reception at the law school. Also, the children's commencement will be taking place at the law school in room 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you.